A poll shows that Arab American support for President Biden seems to be waning in certain key swing states. Those are crucial to winning the presidency in November.
Yeah, Florida, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia are key states. And the poll done this month by the Arab American Institute shows neither candidate is getting high marks for popularity. Overall, 79% of Arab Americans have an unfavorable view of President Biden, while 56% have an unfavorable view of presumptive Republican candidate Donald Trump. Zooming in on President Biden now and breaking down his support among Arab American voters, it's only 8% in Florida, 15% in Michigan, 29% in Pennsylvania, and 22% in Virginia. Time now for the exchange, and let's bring in someone who can analyze these statistics. James Zogby is the founder and president of the Arab American Institute. He's also the author of the book Arab Voices, What They Are Saying to Us and Why It Matters. James, welcome to the program. It's good to have you on. I mean, it's pretty stark numbers here for President Biden specifically when you consider that his popularity and support among the Arab American vote now is the same as it was last year in October at 20% versus where it was in 2020 at 60%. What more is the takeaway from the study?
Well, the issue is Gaza. Without a doubt, it is the pain that Gaza has caused. I call it the wound in the Arab heart that never heals. Frankly, it has taken a huge chunk out of the president's support. The good news in the poll is that he can win it back if he were to take a dramatic stand and suspend arms shipments or to demand an immediate ceasefire and unimpeded humanitarian aid. But it seems unlikely he's going to take those kind of dramatic stands, and so the numbers look bleak.
And when you think about just the polling here, I want to read our audience some of the polling that came out. 79% of Arab Americans voters have an unfavorable view of President Biden compared with 56 for Donald Trump. I mean, explain that, because when you think about Trump's rhetoric when it comes to the Israeli-Gaza war, I mean, he's talked just a few days ago, he talked to wealthy donors about the fact that if he were in charge, he would crush pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses. So on the face of it, these sorts of numbers don't really make much sense. Explain it to us.
Well, they don't. And pollsters do talk about, what is called a kind of a Trump nostalgia. People forget 3.5 years ago. There is a sense of forgetting. And certainly the Biden campaign is going to do its best to remind people of what was. But when I talk to people, and look, I'm a Democrat. Let me just be honest about that. And this pains me a great deal, but I want to be honest about where we are. Where we are is people are saying, yeah, I remember how bad he was, but you know what? This is really horrible, and I don't know what it will take to win me back. They just are watching this genocide unfolding every single day that's causing tremendous pain. And Joe Biden, they view as responsible for not putting a stop to it, for not taking a decisive stand, for creating red lines that become invisible or keep moving in the wrong direction. I mean, the person who's causing you pain now is going to be viewed more unfavorably than the person who caused you pain years ago and may cause you pain in the future. That's the only thing I take away from this. But look, another big number here is the almost 1/2 of voters who say they're undecided, or the significant number, more than a half, who say they're just not enthusiastic about voting at all in this election. That's a big number at this point for people to just say, I don't even think I'm going to vote. I've told people when they tell me, when it comes to a binary choice, Biden versus Trump, they'll all come down for Biden. They'll remember. I say the binary choice is going to be, do they vote or not vote at all? And I think a lot of folks just won't vote. And that's true not just for Arab Americans, but it's true for young people, for progressives in particular, for blacks, and for Asians. We're finding that in our broader polling that's the case. A lot of folks are just going to stay home.
Yeah, that sentiment I was going to say is not exclusive to just Arab American voters, but what is interesting, unlike other polls, in terms of the top issues for Arab American voters, it is
Right.
Gaza. Unlike younger
Yeah.
Americans who may not be happy with how this war is being conducted, obviously, they say that the economy or the cost of living or other issues are a top priority. That's not the case for Arab American voters. I do want to ask you if we can go back to the poll that you conducted in October of 2023, where President Biden received only 20% of the Arab American vote. I'm just curious as to what was the trigger, because at that point we hadn't seen some of these really difficult images that have progressed throughout this war and seen the headlines and the death toll continue to rise.
Well, we were seeing it. Remember, the poll was done the end of October. We had already had a couple of weeks into it, and there was a sense that this was spinning out of control. I remember having meetings with the Secretary of State and the National Security Advisor saying, "Look at how many more civilians have to die before you decide to stop." It was something that was painful. I think what's happened is that instead of going in the opposite direction, it solidified. That sense of frustration solidified. So yeah, I think that Gaza has been an issue almost from the beginning of this conflict. Certainly not on day one. There was a sense day one after what happened on October 7th. There was horror at what Hamas had done and what had been unleashed. But as the days went on, the Israeli response became so not just disproportionate, but genocidal, that people, look, we were seeing hospitals bombed, schools bombed, neighborhoods destroyed. That was happening in the first couple of weeks. So yeah, it's been there from the beginning. It's now just solidified.
Yeah, of course, the Israelis argue that their intent is obviously not genocide, but to go after Hamas. But we see the suffering there among civilians, and it's hard not to just be heartbroken by what we're seeing going on. Also notable in your report is the role that third parties are playing in this election as well. It is a really interesting read. James Zogby, thank you.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Thank you.